Hey, what's up guys, it's Israel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys the easiest way to deploy an Angular application to Azure. This is just going to be Angular by itself. There's not going to be an attached .NET API in the solution. It's just going to be by itself an Angular app. So let's dive into the code right now. Now that we're in Visual Studio Code, we're going to be creating a new project in Angular. This is going to be Angular 13, but if you're watching this in the future and you want to downgrade or even upgrade or no matter the version that's out right now, if you just go to the official Angular documentation, they should have you covered with any big changes, but the Angular version doesn't really change what we're going to be doing to deploy to Azure. So relax, you're going to be fine. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and actually create the Angular app. So we're going to do ng for new. And then we are going to do test Azure app. And it should take a little bit and it should generate the full application after it asks me a few questions. Sure, we want routing. And I personally like SCSS. Doesn't really matter for this. We're not going to be doing a lot with actually Angular. It's going to be more focused on just deployment. So let's move ahead. It's going to create this and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you guys can see, our project has been created. So now let's go open it up. So now that our project is open, we see here that, we have a very basic project. And just to get it, running, let me show you guys that an app has actually been created. Let's run it in the terminal. So let's create a new terminal here. Let's do ng serve just to get this kind of running. Sure, yes, share. Analytics, doesn't matter. So this is going to run, this is going to generate, and we're going to be actually able to open up our sample application in the browser now. Okay, so now our application is running and we can follow this link to localhost 4200. So we can open this application up right here. As you guys can see, very basic app. Our test Azure app is running. We have it just right here, just chilling. Nothing too crazy about it. So first of all, I'm going to just make like a quick change just to show you guys that it is the current one that I just created. And let me just go to app. Let's just go to app component home. Let's scroll down to some place where I can make a change. Here, I think this is like the welcome. Where does it say welcome? Welcome's up here. So I'm just going to add my name there. And hi, YouTube. So save that. Should reload. Israel and hi, YouTube. So welcome to you guys and welcome to myself. All right, so this is running. We have a working application. So now let's say this is all I want. Now, how do we push it to Azure? That is the next part. All right, so now is the time that we're actually going to create the things that we need in Azure to be able to then just deploy to Azure. This is going to be very friendly to anyone if you haven't used it. I'm not going to do any of the very complicated pipelines or continuous integration. Those are way more advanced topics for deployment, and they may be the correct way to do it in a full-fledged company or production environment for, a big team. But for the time being, this is going to be, again, the easiest way to just deploy to Azure. So we're just going to do it in the simplest and easiest way for anyone of any skill level to be able to do it. So now let's move over to Azure. So now we are in the Azure portal. The first thing you guys will need to create, and the one thing I won't show you guys how to create, is you will need a subscription. You can just very easily sign up for the free trial. If you do want to pay, you can go for the more elevated tiers. But if you just want to jump in, get something going, just test it out, see how it feels, just sign up for the free trial. You have free credits. You have a certain time span. You do have to put your card down. So just be aware of that. But unless you're actively, spending, and you'll notice when you're spending on higher elevated things, you'll notice when you're selecting that stuff. And they will specifically tell you these are the free items that you can use for resource groups, for app service, stuff like that. But you guys can go ahead and just set that free trial subscription. Or if you want to go for an expensive one or actually pay, then that's your choice. But the first thing we will need to do is we need a resource group. So let's create a resource group. We're going to choose our free trial subscription. We are going to name our resource group, I don't know, sample resource group. I should be able to use that. And we can just choose really anywhere. I'm just going to choose South Central USA. I'm in Texas, so let's just go with that, I guess. And then we can just, I think, skip the tags and just create this. So basically, the resource group is just the amount of resources the applications that use this resource group are going to have. So obviously, if you don't pay for just, the free tier like I have right here, you're going to have way more slots, way more, RAM, gigs of everything. So definitely as that goes up, you're just going to have way more resources for your applications. But for right now, I'm just using the free trial. You guys can, do whatever you guys need. So now that we have this resource group created, we now can go back here. Okay, so now that we have this resource group created, we can now go ahead and actually create our app, which is what we are going to be deploying to. So sample resource group, click it. You're going to see this create button, create, and then we now go down here to web app. This is what we're going to create. Now, this is where you guys need to pay attention because there's like a few little tricky things that can get you. So we're just going to have to cover that stuff. So again, subscription free trial. Here, you're just going to select the resource group that you want. I'm going to pick the sample one that I just created. And then our web app name can be anything as long as it is available. So I'm just going to do something very similar to what I created just earlier. If it's available and I can use it, apparently I can't. So let's just add Angular to the end. Test Azure app Angular .azurewebsites.net. So we are just going to be publishing code. You can do a static web app, but I'm just going to do code. It's simple. I'm going to pick Node 14. And then if you do Linux, you will have to do some other changes, and it's just way more difficult. There's no reason I see to not just pick Windows and go ahead with Windows unless there's like some programmatic reason to the rest of your application that you have to use Linux. I would just use Windows. It comes with IIS installed already, and you don't have to do anything. So now Central US, keep that the same. All this is the same. And then for our purposes, you don't really need to worry about any of this stuff. You can just kind of skip through it. If you really want some extra monitoring or deployment slots or stuff like that, that's on you. But for this purpose of this tutorial, we can just create it. So we're going to see that our application is being created here. Once we are created, we can then go back to our code and actually attempt to deploy correctly. So as you can see up here, it says deployment succeeded. So now we can actually go to this resource, look at our Angular app. It's right here. Test Azure app Angular. Had to change the name because it wasn't available. So if we click on this URL, this will take us to our actual Azure website, which is it's gonna run, but it's gonna be empty. As you guys can see, your web app is running and waiting for content. So now we have set up everything in Azure for now that we need to actually run this. And now we actually need to put our code into here. So now how do we do that? Let's go to that. Okay, so now that we are back at our project and we've done everything that we need to do in Azure, this is where we actually will deploy. So you guys will need to install the extension Azure App Service. It is super quick, very tiny, and it does exactly everything we need from the official Microsoft account. So it does exactly what we need. So once you install it, you will see this A for Azure. The Azure logo appears right here. And then you will be able to it'll ask you to sign in, and once you sign into your account, whatever account you were using just now for your Azure, you will be able to just show, I think you go to resources, and if you go to your resources, you're going to see I have my free trial subscription here, and then under that, you're going to see app services. If you see, you would have all these other things if I had them, but I don't. But the app services, you see the test Azure app Angular that I had earlier. Just to confirm, test Azure app Angular. So this is the one that's right there. And it is the one that is being found here. So now when I want to say, let's deploy our files to this, we're going to right click it and we're going to deploy to web app. But now this is the key, and don't mess this up. You do not want to push your whole thing. You want to browse and you want to find that dist folder, the dist folder that you need to do an ng build on. So before you do that, let's just go ahead and do an ng build. Let's do another one just to make sure that we have the most up-to-date changes, the most up-to-date code. Let's do another one, and then we will push it. So now that it's done, now we can go back. Let's right-click, deploy to web app, browse, go to our dist folder, select that, and are you sure you want to deploy to test Azure app? Yes, that is what we want to do. So this will take a little bit, and I'll be right back once it finishes deploying. All right, so now that we're back, deployment completely finished. I got the notification in the bottom right corner that everything's deployed successfully. So now let's go check out, Azure and see what's going on over there. So now that we're back here on Azure, we can see by going to our URL what happened. Did our dist folder actually work? So we click it, and you do not have permission to view this directory or page. So this is a very common issue that I've seen, and I did not want to fix it so I could show you guys how you should fix it. So let's close it out. So the issue here is a lot. If you actually want to diagnose this, or you know that it's not this issue or this fix that I'm about to tell you guys, then maybe you're going to have to look into the logs of your application and dig in a little deeper, because this will be kind of the default error for a lot of stuff. So if you have to dig it in, you're going to have to go into like the logs or into something else to really dive into what exactly your particular issue is. But this is the issue I've been seeing, and I think it's like the very broad one when doing this. So you want to come down here to configuration. And once in your configuration, you have to do a few things. Well, really, not that many things. But one thing you can do is really, when it comes to Angular, your index.html page needs to be the default page. I don't believe this does much, or if anything, to fix that issue. But you can do it anyways. But the real fix is, if you go to path mappings, you're going to go here to your site www root. So what happens is, whenever Angular or the Azure App Service deploys it, it deploys it on site www root / your application name. So this does not have the correct path to where your actual index file is, and it's why it can't find it. So to fix it, you go in here, you press this, and then what you want to do is you just want to do / and then you want to do your application name. So in my case, if I go to my application and go to my package JSON file, I have test Azure app with the hyphens. So that is what I'm going to want to put over here. Select OK. We're going to save this, save our changes. It's going to update the web app. And then when we come back to our website, it should be working with the default page as we saw earlier. So now if I go back here, so now once we click on this link, as you guys can see, our application's up. You see hi YouTube, welcome Israel up in the corner, which is the changes I made. Our app is working. It is right here. So this is how you deploy an Angular app very quickly to Azure. You don't have to do a lot of things. Your Angular application can be whatever state it is, but really you just have to set up kind of the Azure stuff in the background. That big bug with your application / the name needing to be behind www root is a very key thing that you need to remember to do. But once you do that, it's very straightforward to get your Angular application up. And then if you want to just do further deployments, all you have to do is just do the exact same thing of just deploying to here with a brand new ng build. Don't forget about that, because if not, you're not going to be getting any new changes. But you can do it other ways. You can also do it, like I was mentioning earlier, with the continuous deployment. You can do a pipeline. Those are more advanced topics, and if you want to go look into those, I'm sure there's other YouTube videos around that will help you do that more advanced stuff. Or you can use your source control, whatever that may be. I personally use Git Kraken, and that's another way that you can just like hard push. But really, the, I guess, professional way is you would like to have continuous integration or continuous deployment to where you set your master branch to be that kind of deployment. So every time you push to your master branch, it automatically just pushes to your cloud, wherever that production build may be, and it just reloads a new version of it. That is kind of how you want to do it. But for this was a very simple, grounded, easy way to just get your application into, Azure. And if you guys found this video helpful, I'd appreciate a like. Please subscribe so you guys don't miss out on any of the other, tech tips or tutorials that I'm going to do, and all the other wonderful content that I do have planned. But for now, this is how you deploy very easily an Angular application to Azure. And I'll see you guys at the next video.